Good morning. My name is Doris and I am Little Bird Products. And if you have subscribed already and have been here with me before, thank you for returning. And if this is your first time here, welcome. And please remember to subscribe so you get notified every time I post a new video. What I have been working on this week, it's been a busy week. Had family visiting, which was wonderful, but that only gave me a few days at the beginning of the week to finish what I was working on. I tried to get all of my Christmas tunics made and pictures taken and in my store, so I'm finished with that. Make sure you look at my website on Etsy and you can see all of those and maybe purchase one if you enjoy that type of thing at the holidays. What I have in my little mind that I want to work on this week is I recently sold my, I made one of these out of a quilted bedspread that I was gifted. And it's a really nice hooded robe or jacket, however you choose to make it. And that first one that I made, well, actually I've made two. I made one from a vintage quilt and sold it a month or so ago. And this one I just made recently and sold it on Etsy, so I decided to make another one. I really like the pattern. It's basically only 3-4 pieces. The sleeves it's a little unusual. I think I did an earlier video on the one that I made, and I made it reversible, and that was fun to do. But this one I'm going to make out of the rest of the quilted bedspread that this was made from. This is the little kimono jacket, and I'll see if I can find the pattern number for this. I've had the pattern for quite a while. And this is just a 2-piece pattern, and I usually change it up depending on the material I'm going to make. This one I just have left to do. I'm going to put some bias binding at the edge of the sleeves and up on the collar. And the way that I cut the bedspread, it had a rounded scalloped edge, and I tried to retain that scalloped edge on the hem and in the front, and I think it turned out really cute. And I'm going to try to retain some of that scalloped edge, I think, on the front and the bottom of the hooded jacket that I'm going to make out of it. And I've got that cut, the pieces cut, the pockets cut. I have it serged, and then I'm going to put it together. And I'm thinking about trying to make another one. I have some vintage chenille pieces, and I haven't made a hooded robe or jacket out of vintage chenille yet. And I'm thinking I might try to make that this week. I have to be thinking about it because I'm getting ready for my biggest show of the season that's in New Braunfels. And that's not this coming week, but the week after. So I also have a stack back here. You probably can't see it, but I have about a dozen book pocket pillows. I put the materials together, and throughout the year I embroider the pockets for those. And once I put the materials together, the zippers, the pocket material, the pillow material, and the zippers, I put that all together in kind of a little kit, and I store it. And then as I sell pillows, I replenish my stock and make more. And so I want to get those dozen made. I think that'll be enough for the next couple of shows. So I try to get those made ahead. They're more of let's see, how do I want to put it? They're not as time intensive as what a lot of my alter couture is, because every piece is different. I have to design it as I go along. With the pillows, the time consuming part is getting the embroidery done for the pockets. And like I said, I try to do that throughout the year for the most popular images. I do have a new image that I just finished making, and if you watch my channel, you'll see some of those, and you watch my store. I just put those in the store this last week, and therefore this creature that that I guess the kids are really enamored with now. It's called an axolotl. It's spelled really strange, but they are a real creature. They're very, very funny looking. You know, they look like a miniature pink dinosaur, and I've seen actual pictures of them. I've not seen one in real life. That would be fun to see. So they have I have a fun saying on it. It says, I axolotl, and comes out to be axolotl. Ask a lot of questions, and I read to find my answers. So those I have, little boy ones because they have blue binding on them, and little girl ones because they have pink binding on them. So I have a few of those made, and then I'll remake more of those. I have to embroider more pockets. So I do the book pocket pillows as I sell them, like I said, to try to replenish my stock. I try to keep about 30 of them on hand because depending on the child's age and what their interests are, the images vary. So I make and keep them in stock. I'm kind of blathering here because I didn't spend a lot of time making notes for what I wanted to say today. But basically, I want to get my hooded jackets made because I need to have a few of those, more of those in the store. And I have some new Cantha material. I'll put a picture of that here. And I'm hoping, like I said, to make a hooded jacket out of that. It'll be lighter weight, but the way that those Cantha throws are that I use, they actually are double-sided, so I can make that jacket reversible. The only thing that shows is usually the inside of the hood has a seam, and so I usually take bias binding and cover the seam with that, so that when you reverse it, it actually looks just as nice on either side. So I'm hoping to make one of those, and because I haven't made one out of the Cantha yet, that will take me several days to do. So I'm not sure if I'll get that finished. And then again, I have so many of these graphic tees. This is a top that I made for myself a while ago, and it has pockets in it. And I like making these. I'd like to they'd sell well for me. And I'd like to get some of those made at the show. And I had a really nice sale this last week, and I got 5-star reviews on each one of the pieces that this lady bought. She was a new customer, and I'm so happy she liked everything she bought. She bought 4 different one-of-a-kind pieces, and she actually bought one of my Cantha and denim shirts that I make. So I was thinking about trying to get some more of those made for this show. I do have 3 more shows after that. They're nice shows. They're just a little smaller than this one in New Braunfels happens to be. And that's one where it's going to be really fun to pack the van up because my best friend, the Tooth Collector Fairy author, she and I pack all of our things in my van, and she drives us to New Braunfels, which is about a 3.5-hour drive. And it's a 3-day show there. So that's a lot of work, and I will try to post the Sunday, the last day of the show, probably be Monday morning before you see it, and I'll do some excerpts from the show, show you what the show looks like, show you our booths, those kind of things. But I do plan on posting next Sunday because that will be the Sunday before the show, and I'll give you a status midweek to let you know how I've come along with my hooded jackets and show you some pictures. And I will put the name of the pattern that I use, this new look pattern, and also if I can find the pattern number that I used for this kimono jacket, I will show that to you too. The kimono jacket is a relatively easy make, and I think it always turns out cute. I always make, depending on what I'm using to make it, like most of my things, it's a little different every time. Sometimes the sleeves are shorter, sometimes they're longer. I did do with this, and I'll do some close-ups of pictures of that, because it is a thrifted bedspread. A friend gave it to me. It does have some flaws, and what I've done is I've taken these, I don't know if you can see this very well, they are actually little, they're, what do you call that? I want to call it tape embroidery, but they're little, placemat things, things, coasters, that kind of stuff, and they're vintage looking, and they're all cotton. And what I did is on this, and like I said, I'll show you some close-ups. There were some flaws on the sleeves, and what I did is I covered those up with these, and they're all cotton. And then I stitch them down with a little special stitch with some blue in it. And I had thought about taking and dyeing the whole thing in a light blue, so that all that white would be blue, and then that would dye this too. But I don't think I'm going to have time to do that. So I'm probably going to do that with a different bedspread that I have, because I have 2 more bedspreads that are quilted. I think that might more be like they say, maybe gilding the lily. And dyeing things does take a while because you have to do it damp. And if you watch Tracy Myers, another YouTuber, she does a lot of dyeing, but she seems to have a pretty nice setup. I think she has a second kitchen downstairs. Because I can't use my kitchen here to dye, I'd have a mess. I'm kind of a mess maker. And I do my dyeing outside in a plastic tub. And so that's a whole process, with rubber gloves. And when I dye things, I try to dye quite a few things all at once. And that would be quite a project for me to start right now while I'm getting ready for my show. But I might do that when I come back from the show and dye some things. I have quite a bit of RIT dye, of course, like I do everything. I don't buy just one thing. When I start on something, I have a whole collection of different colors of RIT dye because I wanted to kind of try mixing some of them together, experimenting. I did do some tea dyeing earlier in the season, and I really like that. That's much easier. It's a little cleaner process. I don't worry about covering myself with dye head to toe. I'd just look like I had a tan if I did some tea dyeing and got it on me. But so I have a few things in the process, and I'm excited about this week. I do like working with my quilted bedspreads. They're kind of fun. It is a little more intense because I do have to serge all the seams and do that right away so that, the fabric will move around with the batting in between. You don't really need a serger to do that, but you do use a zigzag stitch around the edges because you want everything to stay together nicely. So that takes a little bit more work, but they turn out so cute. And then what I do when I go through that and I inspect my pieces, I'll put a little piece of this painter's tape over every place there's a flaw so that I don't miss it. And this is one of the pockets that I'm going to put on the other bigger jacket. And what I did is this is a really nice finished edge, and this is a part of that scalloping. So I try to keep some of those features intact, and I think these are really going to make really cute pockets. They'll have this little scalloped piece at the top where you put your hand in, and then it'll be a little bigger. And I think that on a longer jacket, I'm going to call them jackets, not robes, because I think people will wear them as jackets. That's nice to have that nice big pocket at the bottom. And I was thinking about putting a button loop on the front for a closure, or maybe ties. And I'm not quite sure I'm going to do that yet. This one, I like the way it looks without anything because it just kind of self-closes in the front. And I think when you wear that, it just kind of stays naturally closed. And also then it makes it a little more size agnostic because my mannequin here is a my size mannequin. It's about a 2X. And see how nice and loose this is. And so it's very size forgiving. And I put really cute pockets in this too. So I'll do a few more pictures and put that in here at the end so you can see them and see how it looks. So I will let you know midweek how I'm doing, and if I have anything else that I'm going to be able to work on. I always have these grand expectations for what I'm going to be able to get done. And then, life interferes, and we'll see how I progress. Oh, I did, the other thing I wanted to do, I did want to do a couple of more of my reversible jackets, and they're made out of men's shirts and other fabric pieces that I have, because I have some really cute material because I dismantle men's shirts and make a lot of tunics and tunic shirts out of them, and they've sold really well. And I think I sold my last reversible jacket last week, and they're not difficult to make, but it takes, quite like I said, most things, they take more time to design than they actually do, or for me, to design than they do to make, because there's a lot of decisions you have to make, along the way when you're doing that. And I enjoy that. That's, to me, that's a part of the fun. If I had somebody to do all the sewing, it'd be fantastic. I could just spend my day putting things together and having my ideas come to life. But it's just me, and I've got to do it all, and I enjoy it all. It's just, what I think I can get done and what I'm able to get done are two different things. So I hope you enjoy these little videos of what I'm working on and what I'm able to get done. And if there's something that I have shown or I have in my store that you want me to do a video on that to show you how I make it, I don't do so much tutorials as showing you what I do, where my ideas come from. And if there's something that's very specific that I think you need to be aware of, I like to show you that. When I make this pattern, this new look pattern, even though it isn't very many pieces, there's a couple of things that are pretty unique, where it has the front pieces have the hood, which is interesting. So the back piece, the center back, is just a shorter, smaller piece. It's almost like an inset. And then the sleeves have a front sleeve and a back sleeve. So there's multiple pieces. I don't know why they chose to do that way, the structure, but it does come out nice, I think, and it looks good. It's just a little confusing when you start to use that. There are a couple of YouTube videos out there, one in particular that's really good, that's a tutorial on how to make this pattern, and I did link that in an earlier video. What I'll do is I will link my video that includes this hooded jacket in the comments, and then I will try to go back to that, and if I think I linked the tutorial in there too. I'll link it in this one, so that if you're interested in making one of these hooded jackets, you'll have those resources available to you. It is a nice pattern. It is a fun make. I like making it depending on how much material I have in my quilts that I'm using. You can make it short. It has a lot of different lengths included in the pattern. It has 1, 2, 3, 4 different views that you can make. And so the one that I sold was a shorter one. It was this one. And the one that I'm making this time is going to be the longer. Not quite this long, but it's longer. And I like doing that, because you can be I like patterns that are flexible like that. So the base pattern, you can make your own way. One thing that it does call for, it has a different way of making the pocket. Where the pocket, it's not an inseam pocket, but it's sewn in the seam. Now, I don't make the pockets that way. I make my pockets out of scrap, so whatever I have is how I make it, and I just do them as a patch pocket on the side. I like doing them that way. It's a little easier and it's a little more flexible for me, because like I said, I make them out of the material that I have. And this jacket will have some of this on it, because there are flaws in that quilt. And it's kind of fun, I think, to be able to use some of my vintage materials and my vintage linens. The other thing that I've been kind of toying with, and well, I have a captive audience here, I'll ask your opinion on what you think about it. I've seen a couple of videos and a couple of patterns, that people are making. I have a lot of vintage hankies that have some beautiful embroidery on them. And I saw this one where she just takes the vintage hankies and she lays them out, and then she just stitches them on top of each other to make her material. And what I'm thinking about doing, and this is going to be a fun and interesting make. I don't want to ruin any of my hankies, but I have some that have flaws, and so I could cover up the flaws, that I can stitch them all together. And I have this pattern that I use a lot. I use it for my shrugs, my short little jackets, and it's called a French fold shrug. It's a zero waist pattern by Diane Erickson, and she does a lot of zero waist. If you haven't used a zero waist pattern, hers are pretty good to use. And what they do is you don't have any scraps from your material. She uses every piece. And so this one is just a great big rectangle. That's how it starts out, a great big rectangle of fabric. And I like using different pieces of fabric and putting them together for that. And then it just takes a few cuts and then it's the way you sew it together. So you don't have any waste out of it. The only waste ends up being a little piece in the center back that comes when you cut the front out. And then what I do is I fold it down in and kind of make it a feature on the jacket. And I've sold a lot of them. In fact, I make them out of my Cantha throws a lot, because with the Cantha I can make them reversible, and that's a really fun make. And they don't take a long time, but they're a little bit different every time. Sometimes they're shorter, sometimes they're longer. Sometimes I put fringe on the bottom. I might try to, here we go again, yet another thing to make. But I'd like to get a couple made with the hankies, because if I make my own material for the hankies, then what I can do is I can make a lightweight shrug, and it would have all of that hand embroidery from the hankies all over it. So I think I'll look through my hankies, see what I have, pick the ones out that have flaws, so that when I sew them together, I can make up for those flaws. So when I sew them together, I can be a little more accommodating what the flaws are, sew over them, maybe put some vintage linens as a part of it. I might have to line it with a sheet, because the vintage hankies are very lightweight. But if I think that it's going to make a nice little shrug, a lightweight one, I might just make it like that. I think that would be really cute to have a lightweight shrug. Let me know what you think in the comments, and maybe that'll be a project that I can get to. We have to have the van loaded, not this coming Thursday, but the next Thursday we leave for the show. So I have a couple of days that week. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much I get done. I'll let you know the middle of the week how I'm progressing. Wish me luck. Bye. Here are just a few clips of my hoodie in progress with, I think I have some captions on them so you can see what I'm trying to illustrate. And then I also have another picture of the kimono jacket pattern. And then these are some things on the kimono, some pictures that I have for it. And I have finished making it, so it's in the store now. And then here's a picture of my lovely Cantha. Thank you for watching. Bye.